there's this thing for the last, 20, 30 years, if it feels good, do it. No, we're not animals. We can make choices. And what we really need to say is, if it is good, regardless of how I feel, do it. Because feeling should follow, and does follow, right action. So I don't feel like exercising. I really feel like opening that refrigerator. But with a little direction here, my wife says, let's go for a walk. And I get back and I feel so much better for having walked rather than numbed the problem. So if it is good, regardless of how it feels, do it, is really a key to managing these stressors that we can't control, and we can't always.
Right. And what you just said, one book came to my mind that's probably one of the most powerful illustrations of this, and that's Ning Qing's book, Life and Death in Shanghai.
Yes.
And in that book, she details how she spent 5 years in solitary confinement in the Cultural Revolution in China. And during that time, she was may have been one of the only people that they weren't able to break in this very large jail, where they put enormous amounts of pressure on them to get them to incriminate someone else, so that they could in turn, pursue them. But she was determined to resist. So even though she only had a very small cell, she didn't have very many options. She put herself on an exercise program, so she did exercises every day. She also every day took parts of the day and used those. In her case, she would kind of recite ancient Chinese poetry. She was a Christian, so she recited, scripture, and she prayed. But I am certain that what she was able to do, even though it was a horrible, terribly painful time of her life, that gave her the courage and the fortitude never to do what they tried to get her to do, which was lie about other people. She was able to maintain her integrity all through those years. And she died, I think, this past fall. But she spent happy years in Washington, D.C., and loved, having that chance to have some opportunities to be free. And to me, her life speaks so eloquently of that we're never in a circumstance where we don't have choices. I think particularly with the times we're facing now, many of us are facing difficult times, hard times. But if we can look for opportunities to look away from our own lives, to try and help someone else, if we can remember the good things that are happening in our lives and not focus in on the painful pieces, all of those things will work powerfully to help us.
Wow. I think there's a lot that can be learned from others and how others endure stress in a healthful way. I think about myself right now. As many of you can probably tell, I've got quite the bump going on here. And so I'm thinking, as we're having the conversation about stress and diet and exercise and our thoughts, could it be that how I deal with stress now is actually affecting the baby that's growing within me?
Absolutely.
Right? So it's a lot of responsibility, actually. Thanks a lot.
But there are things that you can do that will make a difference, not only for you, but for your unborn child, in how they deal with stressors, how resilient they are. Making wise choices helps not only us, but those around us as well.
Wow. So what I've learned is that, stress happens. And you mentioned, people are having tough times right now.
Yeah.
The economy is not good. No. On the national stage, there are lots of questions about, where things are going. With job losses and whatnot, there's a lot of fear as well. And so it's important that we do everything that we can to take care of ourselves. Right. And particularly, given the fact that many people are losing their health insurance. They don't have the financial resources to run to the doctor and run to the hospital. So we need to be doing as much as we can to care for ourselves. And part of that is managing our stress. And some of the things that we can do to manage our stress are the same things that we can do to help reduce our risk of other diseases.
Right.
So probably need to avoid those comfort foods during times of stress.
Absolutely. Go for the fresh fruits and vegetables. They really do help you deal with stress.
Very good. Thank you. And thank you for joining us today on Healthy Living. As always, we welcome your input, your suggestions. We want to thank Parkview Adventist Medical Center for sponsoring this program. If you have questions or you have suggestions for future programs, we encourage you to contact Parkview in Brunswick, Maine at 207-373-2162. Take care, and we look forward to seeing you on another episode of Healthy Living.